Plants vs Zombies Fusion is one of the hardest fan games of all time, or so I thought, until the game climaxed on me. But before we continue this beans only journey, why don't you subscribe to give yourself some small channel bragging rights. We continue PvZ Fusion on day 22, where we are given just a little tease with a huge tip. Sadly, we could not enjoy this huge tip to the fullest as it required a fusion that needed something other than a legume to be placed first. That's right, it was the kelp fusion. Seeing that it was already here, I made the executive decision to not piss off Crazy Dave and dig it up, or he would send me to a certain island. With the help of this very busted fusion, we managed to clear day 22 without issue. As we continued on to day 23, I thought I would try and fuse a special land kelp. However, it turns out this fusion did not exist. I know there's an almanac, but reading is for losers. Just don't tell BookTok I said that. On this day, we were also introduced to a new zombie type, the lawnmower zombie, who insta-kills any plant they touch in a very specific way. This made me worry, as when I moved Trumpzilla right to his feet, he did not survive. However, now that I am reviewing the footage, I think it's more due to the fact that I placed him a bit too late, essentially tossing hundreds of sun out the window. Luckily, after the great Trumpzilla incident, we managed to beat this day on our first attempt and only lost a single mower. Moving on to day 24, we meet yet another new zombie, the bobsled zombie. What this guy does is the exact same thing as the lawnmower zombie, but this time he aims to freeze. This zombie is chill, almost like a man named Bill. I guess you could call him John Cold. Even with John Cold coming to chill my beans, he wasn't the real threat. The real threat was the swimmer zombies once again. But with the power of my cherry pea fusion explosion, we managed to take them out and beat this day on our first attempt. On day 25, we were introduced to yet another new zombie type, the Poseidon zombie, who threw his dangly pointy thing at my plants, damaging them. Sadly, I remembered the existence of another zombie on this day, and it was the Shart zombie. This big shit had so much HP, but he didn't actually prove that much of an issue. That is until he got down to 5 out of 1300 HP. At this point, he went Ultra Instinct and made me fail the day. This shit hurt, and now we had to play this long ass day again. Luckily, on our second attempt, we came prepared and blasted this Shart back to Kingdom Come, allowing us to beat this day. This was then followed by day 26, which didn't pose any sort of issue whatsoever, so once again, I'm going to introduce to you another fun seal fact. There are only a few days left until a certain seal has to eat some cement, and no, I'm not giving you context. As we arrived on day 27, we were introduced to another day type, conveyor belt days. Now, since I cannot actually pick my plants on these days, they won't count towards the challenge, but as for day 27, I wanted to do a little fun side challenge. Can I beat day 27 with only legumes? Well, not really, since I had to plant and dig up a lot more plants on the conveyor belt in order to get more 3-peters, but if you disregard that, we managed to beat this day with only legumes and their fusions, which I think is pretty cool. This led us to day 28 and the start of another set of nighttime levels. I was not looking forward to this, as the last set of nighttime levels were particularly brutal, and not only does this set of levels not give any sun from the big man in the sky, but it also has severe fog, which greatly deteriorates the player's sanity as the days progress. Day 28 wanted us to use the sunset shroom in order to keep up with sun production, but I was no quitter. However, it turned out my stubbornness only caused me problems, as the second zombie that spawned was in fact a swimmer zombie, and we didn't have the sun to deal with him. As soon as the second swimmer zombie hit the pentagon, we failed this day, and I knew I needed another sun producer. As I recalled back onto the thousands of comments from my original Beans Only challenge, I had many people tell me that somehow nuts were actually legumes, and so I devised a plan. I would be allowed to use nuts and merge them with sunflowers, since some could argue they are in the legume family. But if that still isn't good enough for you, I peed on them for good measure, turning them into a peanut, which is definitely a legume. With our new sun producing strategy in tow, we managed to beat day 28 on our first attempt. In my restless dreams I see that day, day 29. On this day, we were introduced to another new zombie, the Whoie zombie. He had escaped the asylum and was coming to lick my nuts. This day started us off with a swimmer zombie, but he didn't make that much of a difference, and we actually beat day 29 on our first attempt, without even encountering the new zombie type. Maybe the real insane zombie was the friends we made along the way. As we made it to day 30, we were introduced to yet another new zombie type who would forever be the bane of my existence. It was the balloon zombie, a zombie who was such a massive nonce it would make an exiled UK prince blush. What this zombie does is he flies over all my plant's violent endeavours, leaving me with no choice but to use an insta-fusion on him. Luckily, these insta-fusions did do the trick and wiped out the balloon zombie, and with him out the way, we managed to beat this day on our first attempt. But there was something I realised here. The bear was coming. On day 31, we were introduced to yet another new gimmick of PvC fusion, the mallet. What it does is if you bonk a zombie with it, it does some fat damage in a nearby area. Some people would argue this is a power up, but I would argue shut the fuck up. It's on a long cooldown and it's on the same hotbar as the shaft gripper, so how could I not use it? Luckily, the mallet helped me beat day 31 on our first attempt, which I already assumed would be easy since it was technically a tutorial day anyway. The bear is at the door. What will you do? As we got to day 32, we encountered yet another new enemy. It was the exact replica of the Enola Gay. No, I'm not being homophobic, that's just the name of the USA's genocide plane from World War II. Thankfully, this plane never turned up thanks to my insane firepower. Or so I thought, until I saw a gigantic health bar floating slowly and ominously towards me. Luckily, I was saving my mallet for this very moment, and with one bonk, we could stop any more nukes from dropping, allowing me to beat the day. The bear is in my house. How do we stop him? As we moved on to day 33, we met yet another new zombie type. It was the miner zombie who was trying to escape an army of Minecraft YouTubers. Unfortunately, his escape plan involved digging underground and eating the behind of all my plants. I now have to condemn the actions of 3Blower Bob as he has done some heinous things named in the files. With the help of my P insta-fusions and my lucky mallet, day 33 was another day we managed to beat on our first attempt. The bear has been dealt with. He is my friend now. Day 34 was a fat long schlong of a day with some stupid ass zombies. First of all, this day had 4 big fat waves, which wouldn't have been an issue, but then the surfing zombie turned up. This fucker appears in one of the water lanes going at the speed of sound. In fact, my reaction times are so slow, by the time I recognised what was going on, he showed up to my home, stole my toenails, and cracked my crack. Thanks to this surfing little shit, we'd failed day 34 a couple of times. The one way I could actually get him was by toggling the slow mode, which was an absolute lifesaver. To make matters worse, this surfing zombie wasn't the only one causing me issues on this day, as it also had so many miners rushing my plants at once. This meant I had to waste so much sun on cherry pea fusions just to clear them out, and in the end, I did manage to beat the day, but seriously, this day can go fuck itself. We finally made it to day 35 with only 10 days left of the entire challenge. Honestly, I've been surprised at just how easy this game has been, especially at difficulty 0, which is clearly the hardest difficulty. But due to the inverse difficulty curve of this game, it means if I was going to compare this game to anything, I guess I'd be comparing it to Bloodborne. As for day 35, on this day we were met with some pre-placed plants which I continued to allow, but with the power of Chompzilla, this day proved to be easy since it was the first day in a while without a single swimmer zombie playing to my strengths. In fact, Chompzilla made this day so easy, I just cranked up my game speed and watched the slaughter commence. This saved me so much time since this game's levels can sometimes be painfully long. I wish I knew there was a fast mode 35 levels ago. Either way, day 35 was beaten on our first attempt. On day 36 we were presented with yet another conveyor belt day, but sadly this one didn't have a single legume, so we had to go ahead and beat it normally. It was a fun day, but it didn't give me anything new to talk about in terms of the challenge, so instead I'm going to present you with a sad seal fact. Did you know it's been nearly 3 years since the beloved Ponsuke passed away? His memory must always be honoured. As we approached day 37, we made it to the final stages, the rooftops. It turns out on these days, you can only plant plants on plant pots, and when a plant pot, it plant pots its pot. Sadly, whenever a plant dies, so does its pot, making that tile useless. Now, I know you can put down some more pots, but I thought that would go against the spirit of the challenge, and so I decided to play these levels without planting a single one, and let me tell you now, the impact on difficulty this made was insane. It was so insane that it didn't impact the difficulty whatsoever. As I laid down my plants, I realised another aspect of these levels. If you place a projectile plant on a visible slant, it will actually hit the roof instead of a zombie, meaning if I planted some pea shooters in the back lane, they would be practically useless. Of course, that wouldn't stop me from doing just that, and we managed to beat day 37 on our first attempt. As we got to day 38, we met yet another new zombie type. It was the pogo zombie who bounced on it sexual style. Luckily, I had an ace up my sleeve, my final line of defense consisting of the Sun Nut and Chompzilla. It was beautiful. Chompzilla could stop anything in his way, and with the Sun Nut behind him, I felt truly unstoppable. So unstoppable, in fact, that I beat day 38 on my first attempt. This day was followed by day 39, which consisted of the exact same strategy as the day before. Create a scam, release a game, then declare bankruptcy 3 days later. Anyway, day 39 was beaten with ease with nothing else notable to say about it. As we arrived to day 40, you could hazard a pretty good guess at what we did. That's right, we used the exact same strategy again, which pretty much made this day child's play. At this point, I was starting to get a little bit worried about the entertainment value of this video. Were my beans too powerful? Why did this game get easier as it went? But either way, it didn't matter because we managed to beat this day on our first attempt anyway. I needed new ways to make this video entertaining. No one wants to watch a man overpower his opponent unless they're watching him play a game of soggy biscuit. And so now, every time I find a day easy, I'm going to say that paragraph in a way that I wouldn't usually speak. We all good with that? Well, you fucking better be. Once we arrived at day 41, we saw another new zombie type, and yes, it was yet another zombie that bounced on it. Sadly, my setup was too powerful to realise what this zombie does, and I can't even recall encountering him, but there was another zombie who actually posed a threat. It was the basketball zombie. What this guy did is launch his balls at my face from very far away, so far that not even the Chompzilla could reach him. But it was here that I improvised my setup ever so slightly. I decided it would be a good idea to add some range to my defences, so I added a couple of 3-blower bobs next to my sun nuts. Now you may be wondering why I did this since they can't actually attack thanks to the roof slant. Well, when I fuse my 3-blower bob with a chili, it instantly wipes out 3 lanes, allowing me to deal with the basketball zombie and helping me beat this day on my first attempt. As we got to day 43, we met the very first Gargs of this game, and naturally I wondered how Chompzilla would fare against them. Naturally, he insta-killed them, but this was a double-edged sword, since the Gargs could actually insta-kill him right back if I got unlucky enough. Fortunately, this only happened once this day, and I beat it losing only 1 mower. I'm starting to wonder whatever happened to the zombie fusions from earlier. They made the start of this game really challenging, and now they're just nowhere to be seen. It seems Big Yahoo had finally paid for his war crimes. As we moved on to day 44, I did the exact same setup as usual, but there was one new zombie type introduced, and it was the Explodo basketball zombie. This guy actually made this day quite tricky, since he was just a beefed up version of the previous zombie. This little fucker managed to chunk or even insta-kill a lot of my plants. Fortunately though, my setup was foolproof, and I managed to insta-kill him right back with some 3-peter fusions before once again first trying this day. This led us to day 45, which was yet another conveyor belt day which didn't have any legumes, so we beat it normally before moving on to day 1. Wait, hang on, day 1, let me check my script, hang on. Wait, that can't be right. Hang on. Oh. Upon googling it, I've realised this game only has 45 days. There's no final boss, there is no big narrative arc, no, there's nothing. At this point I was racking my brain thinking what I can do now, what I unlocked, but it seems all I unlocked was Bloon's tower defense. There was no more classic mode to beat, it had already been done. I felt robbed, not by the game, but by myself. I made this challenge too easy. This game was truly a breath of fresh air, and it was actually a lot of fun. I wouldn't mind coming back to PvZ Fusion to do some more challenges, but that fully depends on how this video does. And don't worry, if I do come back, I'm cranking that difficulty right up. If you want to see more, do let me know in the comments below, or the bear will come to your house next.